Mr. Rich, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. This is on behalf of the Legion. You realize that, probably don't realize, that we cannot give poppies and things until the 26th, until the Prime Minister has had his. He got his an hour and a half ago. So after the Prime Minister, you people come next. The rest of us peasants cannot get them until the 26th. Anyway, what I have is poppies for you and these new bracelets. Hopefully you'll make a show of these things and let everybody
Certainly will.
remember that
Thank you.
it's just about upon us.
An interesting bit of information. Good, thank you.
Sorry, I should have started with you, Murray.
It's okay.
Yeah.
He's used to it.
You're not really quite.
Now, is Kathy allowed to have? That's quite all right.
Can't do that.
Protocol breach already. You're ready to start.
There we are.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are we allowed to wear them?
Yes, you can wear them as of today.
Oh, good. Well, where's my elastic band so I don't
There you
lose it
go.
before the meeting starts?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Thanks,
Thank you,
David.
sir.
Very nice.
Thank you to the
See
Legion.
you all at the Remembrance Day ceremony.
You will indeed. Indeed.
Okay. So how's our agenda looking today? Are there any changes?
No, there are no changes and no on-table items.
Okay, can I have a motion
see-
to approve the agenda?
Can we add anything to it? Yes.
As a matter of fact, we have a very full agenda today. Some things have had to be deferred just and for the sake of time, so we're not really adding to it now.
I would like to request a quick one.
What's that?
Could we get a quick update of where we're standing with setting up a meeting with BC Housing and Minister Selena Robinson? Just a follow-up on BC.
Let's move that on to our committee of the whole meeting later, okay? Well, after that agenda, and give you an update there.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, seconded. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Next up, we have public comments. Who have we got today?
Got Tim Rose.
Good morning.
Morning again.
Council, I'm here again. I just wanted to, basically, I did send an email last evening to the council, and I just wanted to read the letter into the meeting. Basically, it's addressing some of the issues that were brought up at the Committee of the Whole meeting recently. Further to the Committee of the Whole meeting with Council on October 10th, 2017, the Bowen Island Health Centre Foundation and DK Harris Properties Limited have executed the letter of intent attached. The developer's agreement to pay the foundation 5% of the purchase price of any market rate residential unit sold in the first 10 years will provide the security the foundation will need for financing should the capital fundraising campaign fall short. The agreement to lease the space, if necessary, to the foundation with an option to purchase allows the foundation to occupy the space as soon as occupancy permits are issued and continue fundraising for an additional 2 years. Furthermore, there is provision for the foundation to become a long-term tenant in the unlikely event that extended fundraising goal period is unsuccessful. In addition to agreeing to the terms that provide certainty to the foundation, the value to the Community Health Center of DK Harris Properties support will approach $950,000 when we total the anticipated 5% donation of the sale price of market rate residential units and the savings which will accrue with the agreement to sell strata title at cost to build with no charge for land. This ensures that even in a worst-case scenario, the Community Health Center will become a reality and mitigates Council's concerns that the main floor of the proposed building at 980 Dorman Road would not be occupied by a health center. Referring to Section 8 of the Foundation bylaws, paragraph 8.1 is required by the Canada Revenue Agency to meet certification for charitable status. We have received a letter from CRA indicating that our application is complete and ready for processing, which should be completed within 5 months of the date of submission. With respect to the disposition of assets in paragraph 8.2, the foundation will also take direction from major donors in addition to the requirements outlined in the bylaws. We hope that this information gives council the comfort to move the rezoning for 980 Dorman Road forward with all due haste, as further delays may jeopardize the developer's ability to schedule a contractor, which could delay the opening of the community's health center by up to a year. Thank you.
Quick question, Kim. Date of submission, 5 months from date of submission, what was the date of
The
submission?
date of submission was in August.
Okay.
Can I ask a question as well? I didn't quite understand the second paragraph, the developer's agreement to pay the foundation 5% of the purchase price of any market rate residential unit sold in the first 10 years will provide the security the foundation will need for financing should the capital fundraising campaign fall short.
Right.
It was my impression that the ability to sell the residential units was kind of a worst-case scenario. Hopefully, they were hoping to be able to rent these out, right? So, I don't quite understand why this would give the foundation financial security when you should hopefully not be reluctant. Like, I didn't quite get that.
This is all to cover what-if scenarios. And I understand that there is a proposal on the table for the developer to pay 5% of the selling price of the market units
If
to
there
the
was,
foundation. So if that were to happen,
yeah,
the foundation could use that to finance if they needed to. We're hoping not to have to finance anything, but if needed, that would be not an asset, but something the bank would consider in terms of financing any money we might want to go on. Does that make sense?
so, okay,
Like, the intention here is that we will have our money and we'll buy the strata and it'll be done.
okay.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
And I'm going to leave this here because Councillor Morris pointed out that the letter of intent I sent you didn't have a date on it, and this one does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anything else, Howard?
Yes, we have Brent Nielsen. Thanks, Tom.
A little bit clearer printing.
Very good, thank you.
Morning, Council. Just real briefly, I'm Brent Nielsen. Catherine and I own the property at 1395 Eagle Cliff. And just wanted to let you know, which I'm sure you've seen by Emma's revised DVP application. We're no longer seeking a variance at the 18.5 meter mark. We're pushing the house back to the average setback at 25.2. And that's based in large part on some of the items brought up by council and residents. And the only variance request we have in now is for a minor roof overhang from 0.9 to 2 and the deck setback from 1.2 to 3. So we have a usable deck off the front of the house. So hopefully it meets with your approval as you review it, and thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brent.
And that's it for public comments.
Okay, on to the good old consent agenda. Anything anyone want pulled? Oh boy, here we go. Let's start with Sue Ellen.
3.1 and 3.9, please.
3.1.
Oh, sorry, 3.3 and 3.9.
3.3, 3.9. Anything more, Melanie?
3.8, it's real quick.
3.8. And Allison?
The one about the 3.5.
3.5. And Maureen?
3.5.
Okay. Okay, so those are the 4 items we were told. Okay, approval of consent agenda,
So moved.
I seconded it. All in favor? Passed. Okey-doke. Now, do we have, we don't have a delegation this week, do we? No. Okay. Emma, you're first up.
Do we vote on the consent agenda?
Yeah, just did.
That was it? Right, okay, just check. It sounded like
It was pretty quick.
in favor of, yes, yeah. More coffee.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. So I'm bringing back variance application DVP 05-2017. And just to refresh everyone's memory, this is 1395 Eagle Cliff Road on the east side of the island. This application was first brought to council beginning of September for introduction and was brought for consideration earlier in October. A revised application was received on October 17th, and it is now before you for reintroduction. And if authorized by council, it will go for public notice and reconsideration at the November 14th council meeting. The original application asked for a reduction for the setback from the sea from 25.2 to 18.5. The application is now revised to place the entire house outside of the required setback of 25.2 meters, and the variance is for the roof overhang and the deck projection. The land use bylaw allows a roof overhang to project up to 0.9 meters into the required setback, and the variance is asking for 2 meters. Similarly, the deck is allowed to project up to 1.25 meters into a required setback, and the application is now asking for 3 meters.
Could you say those two last things again, please?
Oh, yep. So the here. The roof overhang is allowed to project up to 0.9 meters into a required setback, and the variance is asking for 2 meters into the required setback. A deck is allowed to project up to 1.25 meters into a required setback, and the variance is asking for 3 meters into the setback. That's pretty much it. So the recommendation is to authorize public notice for this application.
So moved.
Okay, seconded. Any discussion before we, just to give notice, will be considered at the next meeting? Okay.
In favor.
Okay, no, I just wanted to know if there's any discussion before. All in
Okay,
favor?
I think I just have one quick, just, when it comes back with the report, if we could just give some reasons why they're asking for that, the variance on the house, on the roof projection and the deck, like what's the, is there any reason why it, like, why is it that they can't just bring it back? I mean, I think this is a great compromise, but it would just be interesting to know.
Because it's still
why.
asking for a variance, I guess
Yeah.
that's what,
Okay.
one question too.
All in favor? Okay, passed unanimously. Great. Thank you very much. So, Daniel, good morning.
Good morning.
31.2, housing agreement. I thought I'd thrown that on the consent agenda.
I know. I don't know the
You
presentation.
didn't agree with that, okay.
Well, no, I thought, yeah. So I'm here to talk about housing agreement for Area 1 of Lot 2, so it's bylaw 453. So this is, as council knows, we're in the process of rezoning Area 1 of Lot 2. That's bylaw 438 that we gave third reading to on the October 10th meeting, and as a condition of adopting the bylaw would be that there be a housing agreement registered on title, and under the Government Act, a housing agreement has to be adopted by bylaw by council. So we have drafted a housing agreement that is before you. It's a little different than the normal in terms of often when we do a housing agreement for a developer, there's a specific building that's proposed, and so we'd say, this is a building this big, there's this many units, and these are the affordable units. We don't have this in this case. This is sort of just a blanket one that says in a future development, 15% would be affordable housing. I've shared this with our legal counsel for review. I don't have that back yet. I've also shared it with our realtor to know that, you know, making sure it's consistent with how the land has been marketed, so any potential buyer would also be able to provide comment that it matches what we've committed to from the start through the rezoning process, through the marketing, that, you know, 15% be affordable rental housing. In terms of timing, so it's here for you tonight, and then we would bring it back at the next council meeting, so that's the November 14th meeting, to adopt this bylaw, and we can then register it on title and bring that bylaw 438 back at the November 28th meeting to adopt the rezoning bylaw. So that would be our timeline for this project. In terms of the housing agreement, I've got some comments from Allison, from Allison about the bylaw itself, and I think some of them are quite good and valid comments to incorporate. So I have the report for you for 3 readings tonight, or today. And I don't know, based on Allison's comments, if we'd rather go first and second, and then go third and adopt with the changes.
Can we do third and adopt in one meeting?
I don't think so.
No,
This would be a land use bylaw or OCP.
no.
So my other suggestion was that we recess the council meeting when we get to the end, and we reconvene 5 minutes before the committee of the whole meeting, in which time we will have had time to make the changes.
Perhaps we should know what the changes are.
Yeah, I can
It's things like, Daniel's got them all there, because I gave him my
But
homework.
I think it would be good for the rest of council
Yeah.
members.
Yeah.
I would have liked to
I'll go-
review.
I can go through just some of the, so the bylaw that you have
It's
before you has it.
technical wordsmithing,
Yeah,
it's
um,
not content.
Yeah, so for example, she's flagged consumer price index B for BC and not for Canada. Just clarity in terms of, there's some place where the language is still talking about the future, like we're in the process of developing the land, and well, that's not the case, but we own it, you know, in future development. Significantly, the one I thought was good that designated units, they've got units that make up 15%, and instead saying that at least 15%, knowing that depending on how the units can't break down, you know, it may end up being more than 15%, because that's just, you know, you can't really divide up the unit.
And then the use of the word owner attached to the tenancy agreement, it isn't a tenancy agreement to attach. So just a little rewording of some of those things. So it's not an intent change, it's more to make it so that it's legally valid and binding, and we haven't had the comments back from the solicitor yet.
So I would prefer to, rather than dump this on Chris today at that meeting, I'd like to give it third, and if we have to rescind and go back and
That
bring it
takes more
forward, because-
time.
not really, because we
Chris has got it, he hasn't responded.
if this is just technical wording, and it's all subject to Chris improving, and him coming into it cold today, to then jump back into a council
agree.
meeting after he has dealt with them, and my recommendation would be that we give it third reading today, and that if it all goes to heck because Chris tells us that there's something in there that has substantially changed the intent or the problem of it, and we've got a problem, we will have to deal with it by calling a special meeting at some point, because we have other things in play that this affects. But I'd like to just, I don't want to start jumping back into the meetings 5 minutes
It's
later.
also not fair to the public. I think we have to be
And
particularly open
it
and
has to be an
transparent
open
with our
meeting.
process.
We don't know what time that meeting will be. Oh, man. I'm going to go to Sue Ellen and then Gary.
I would just like legal counsel to also see these changes. So will you be able to forward them to him? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I know that we're looking at.
Not today,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
eventually.
Well, he hasn't commented on the whole bylaw yet, so I wouldn't vote on it without knowing that he commented that it was fine.
I just wonder about the urgency. Is it urgent?
I would suggest we want to get this rezoning accomplished in a timely manner, and this is the item that comes up before the rezoning is approved. So yes, timing is absolutely of the essence.
Within reason, though, I mean, to come to the next
Yeah,
meeting, or?
absolutely of the essence.
Okay.
We're gonna have and I don't think it's been scheduled yet, a special committee of the whole to deal with Lot 1 that Sophie has full counsel on. And we'll be having also a closed meeting then, so we could add a special council meeting to the special committee of the whole meeting to deal with the bylaw.
And the time frame is that sometime between now and the end of the month?
No, the end of the month's next Monday.
Oh, so sometime between now and the next council? meeting?
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so if need be, we'll call a special council meeting in conjunction with that committee of the whole meeting between now and the next council meeting.
And if you want to adopt it quickly, legally, we only need 24 hours between readings. Our
Yeah.
procedure bylaw says 48 hours, but we trump that.
So could we defer this to the,
No, we give this third reading now. And then,
we deal with problems?
if there's a problem and we have to rescind based on
Legal
substantive changes, then we can do that and give it the first 3 readings again at a special meeting, because we're going to have a committee of the whole meeting between now and then. But for our purposes of assuring all concerned that this is all going forward in a timely manner, I would like to just deal with it now if we may.
I have no problem with the intent of the agreement, and they're not substantive in changing intent. They are correcting things that will cause legal problems in the future in the interpretation of the agreement or a misstatement of fact. Like, we are not in the process of developing that property. And that's one of the statements that's clearly in there. I would be maybe comfortable, but I'm saying maybe, with giving it first and second reading. And then giving it third reading at the special meeting and fourth meeting at the November 14th council meeting.
How about we amend the bylaw now to include the changes proposed by Councillor Morse, and give that bylaw the first 3 readings now.
That's why I was suggesting that we do the time thing, because you're not going to want to sit here where we change the word, a couple of words after the word owner and things like that.
No, just as submitted to the planner.
But that's not fair to council or
Yeah.
to.
Oh, okay, what's the thought?
To the public, yeah.
Right.
People want to see it, nobody can see it.
Okay, so we're going to defer this to the special meeting to be called at the time of the committee of the whole meeting to discuss Lot 1.
We can give the 3 readings at that meeting, and we can have adoption as we were on November 14th.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll have the legal input by then.
I would, though, I think Allison's suggestion was that we give it readings 1 and 2 now.
I prefer the latter,
Okay.
the first one.
I'm just wanting to give
For-
assurance to people that we're dealing with on the Lot 2, that it has come before council, it has received first and second reading, that they're wording amendments that are going, that we're going to have a special meeting to.
You could say it has come before council, it has, and it will be dealt with for second and third at whatever the date is, and it will be ideally adopted on November 14th.
Did we give this first reading?
We haven't given.
No, we could say the draft has come to council and
Yeah, okay.
comment.
I think we should give some assurances that this bylaw's in process, at least give it first and second.
I agree.
It's easy enough to rescind a reading or
But if we just give it first and second, we don't have to rescind everything, we can just reread.
Right.
It's a more cumbersome process.
Gotcha. Okay. First and second work for us, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we are voting on is the recommendation that bylaw 453-27-3, cited as Area 1 Housing Agreement Authorization bylaw number 453-27-3, be read a first and second time. So moved and seconded. And all in favor? Okay. So it is passed. Anyone wish to be against?
No, but I will send around my comment.
Could I request that we see a revision struck version for the next iteration?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay, yes. Thanks, Sandra. Bonnie? Good morning.
We have to read, we passed the two of them, right? The
First and
second one.
second.
But the second one is the notice enforcement bylaw, what is that? Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong one.
Yeah, we're at
Never mind.
6.1, we just finished.
Yeah.
So was that, I was gonna ask the same thing.
So we're now on to 6.2.
Now,
Good morning, Mayor
Morning.
and Council. So today I am presenting the fee bylaw for Warren Boys in Manly Bay. And the purpose of this report is to provide council with a draft of the Bowen Island Municipality Bylaw number 450-217 and Bowen Island Municipality Bylaw Notice Enforcement Bylaw number 196-2008 Amendment Bylaw number 452-217. A little bit about the background. The development of Bylaw 450 coincides with Bowen Island Municipality's Island Plan, Strategic Pillar 3, in particular protecting ecosystems. On April 10th, 2017, Council passed Resolution 17-130 endorsing a fee of $240 a year for each mooring buoy in Manly Bay starting on January 1st, 2018. The Community Provincial License of Occupation for Manly Bay allows for a nominal fee to be charged for buoys and the money collected to be funneled back into restorative efforts in the bay. To date, in 2017, BIM has spent approximately $10,000 on marine debris cleanup, submerged and beach wrecks, and environmental initiatives in the bay. The money collected from the approximately 35 federally conforming mooring buoys in Manly Bay, that's what exists currently, in 2018 would fetch approximately $8,400 per year. And that amount is less than what the municipality has paid out to date this year. With respect to the expenditure this year and sort of historical estimates of what we've spent on a yearly basis, BIM's legal counsel determined that $240 a year constituted a reasonable and justifiable fee for each mooring buoy in Manly Bay. So a bit about the bylaw development. As per council direction, bylaw 450-217, a bylaw to establish a fee for a mooring buoy in Manly Bay, has been developed. Bylaw number 452-217, a bylaw to amend bylaw notice enforcement bylaw number 196-2008, includes a schedule of fines associated with contraventions of bylaw 452-217. I think that might be a typo.
450?
450, yeah. Okay. So drafts of bylaw 450-2017 and bylaw number 452-217 have been vetted by BIM's legal counsel. The financial implications, as per the conditions of the License of Occupation Agreement, income generated from the mooring buoys in Manly Bay will be and has to be funneled back into restorative initiatives. Communication strategy. BIM's communication team has developed some great educational materials outlining the requirement for each Manly Bay mooring buoy owner to pay $240 a year starting January 1st, 2018. This information is being disseminated through BIM's communication network, and we've already gone out to the bay and posted, sort of attached via zap straps, some information packages on all the boats that are currently in the bay, and we've put notices up at the library and community notice boards. So in summary, as directed by council by way of resolution, bylaw number 450-217, a bylaw to establish a fee for a mooring buoy in Manly Bay was created. Once adopted, this bylaw will enable the collection of $240 a year for each mooring buoy in the bay. Income collected from the fees will be funneled back into restorative measures in Manly Bay. And the bylaw number 452-217 allows for violation notices to be issued for infractions related to bylaw number 450. So the recommendations before council today
are first that bylaw number 450-217, cited as Bowen Island Municipality bylaw number 450-217, a bylaw to establish a fee for a mooring buoy in Mannion Bay, be read first, second, and third time. And secondly, that bylaw number 452-217, cited as Bowen Island Municipality bylaw notice enforcement bylaw number 196-2008, amendment bylaw number 452-217, be read a first, second, and third time.
Can I get that moved and seconded and then go to discussion? Okay. Any questions or comments for Bonnie? I'll start with you.
Yeah, just, are those the current buoys that are out there, are they all accounted for? They have owners and that's?
Not
Oh.
yet. So,
Okay.
yeah, so again, some more invoice being regulated federally. I've been trying to get Transport Canada, they're very busy with their new initiatives, so trying to get them out there and do a sweep. That's all part of it, like the little pieces of the puzzle, there's lots of little bits and pieces. So we do have inventory of all the buoys, and a lot of them are marked and are complying. However, over the winter, we find that a lot of the label gets worn off, and the summer, I mean, all year round actually with the weather. So we'll just be working, that's all part of the initiative to blast out, say that, you know, we will be doing hopefully a sweep early in the new year. That's the downtime for the federal government, so it seems. That's when we were able to do the last sweep 2 years ago.
Yeah, it looks pretty good out there, it's almost vacant. The other question I would have is enforcement and collection of these, and is there a schedule for that?
Well, you know, it's going to be, enforcement is always the big piece of the puzzle. So with the license of occupation and the provisions that we've drawn out in the management plan that is legislated, or is part of the document of the license of occupation, there is the ability for the local RCMP and also the land officers for the province to do enforcement of the provisions of the license of occupation. Now with this bylaw, there also is sort of a practical aspect in that there is a finding schedule. So in theory, bylaw officers can also, and local RCMP can also write up violation notices for outstanding non-payment of fees.
But I'm thinking about it, somebody can just totally ignore those, and at what point in time do you take the marine out of there? I guess there is a schedule for that.
Yeah, we cannot go in and take the mooring buoy out. We
All right.
cannot do that, because as a local government, we can only restrict uses. So
Yeah.
yes, you always, like with every bylaw, there's not usually 100% compliance.
No, absolutely. Okay, thank you.
If we don't have compliance, can the federal department remove the buoy?
No. As long as the buoy conforms to the Transport Canada private buoy regulation, that's sort of the scope of their jurisdiction or their requirements. So no, so we have little other pieces of the puzzle, like we are also, which has been directed by Council, one part of the 6-point Mannion Bay initiative, the management plan, was that we look at maybe restricting the use, perhaps, of mooring buoys, and so in Mannion Bay. Daniel and I have been sort of having some dialogue about that, because we can restrict use, we can't restrict the mooring buoy itself. But the whole, you know, charging a fee, that may reduce people. It may not be desirable to some people to have a mooring buoy there, and also in tandem with working with the federal government to do sweeps and get rid of those that are non-complying. Over time, this is a long sort of range vision, that the number of mooring buoys may decrease.
Is the insurance requirement any more enforceable?
It's a condition within the management plan of the license of occupation, so it's really something that could be enforced by the province or the local RCMP.
Okay.
It is not a part of this this bylaw per se. Yeah.
Okay. If there's no more, we'll call the question on this one. All in favor? Okay, and that is passed unanimously. Thank you, Bonnie. Okey-doke. Tina, baby. Hello.
How's everybody this morning? First item I'm here for is a request, a proposal for the municipality to connect the Cove Commons, which includes the library and the new building, to the sewer system. So the report that I have sent to you gives you a bit of background on what the current system is, which is a septic system. The expected cost to upgrade that system to accommodate the new building, which is bringing the septic system is quite old. It was probably installed when the building was moved in 1985. There are 2 septic fields which are very close to the fire hall location. I think you'll see that on the map included within it. So currently the library pumps its septic effluent across Metro Vancouver lands up to 2 septic fields near the new fire hall location. One of the fields is on part of the fire hall allotted land. So we had a budget amount of approximately $10,000. Thank you, Allison, for your question. When we started the project, and that estimate has come in at $22,500 instead of what we thought would be about $10,000. To upgrade the septic system as it is now. So we started to explore the idea of connecting to the sewer. So the cost of upgrading, connecting to the sewer, from our rough estimate, was $62,000, and that was from North Construction. That quote was solicited by Paul McGilvery, our construction manager. And North did a quick estimate, it was not a detailed estimate. Kathy, I don't,
Yeah, we hired Chris to do the drawings so we could get a more accurate estimate. Bob, have we heard anything back?
Within the next couple days. We
Oh,
should
okay.
know an estimate,
Okay, they
or it
should-
could be a hard estimate.
Okay. They sure are slow, they must be really busy, because we
Right.
put this in quite a while ago, so. Yeah.
Thanks.
So in my report,